In the quiet little village of Nashville, nestled between green hills and endless fields, lived a woman named Emily. Life hadn't always been easy for her, but she never lost her gentle smile and unwavering love for her only son, Stephen. Their home was small, with cracked walls and a roof that leaked when it rained, but it was filled with warmth and care. Emily's life had turned upside down after she lost her husband, Thomas, to a sudden illness. Thomas was a hard-working farmer. He had managed to keep food on their table and smiles on their faces. But when fever struck and took his life away, Emily and Stephen were left alone and poorer than ever. Emily became the sole breadwinner, taking on whatever odd jobs she could find, scrubbing floors, washing clothes, and working in the homes of the rich in the village. The weight of her loss and her new responsibilities pushed Emily to her limits, but she never let it break her spirit. Every morning she would rise before the sun, whisper a prayer for her husband's soul, and get to work. Little Stephen, with his bright eyes and hopeful heart, stood by her side, sharing her burdens as best as he could. Stephen was a bright and kind boy who loved his mother dearly. He helped with small chores, fetching water from the village well or sweeping the dirt floor of their hut. Every morning, as the first rays of sunlight crept through the gaps in their walls, Emily would kneel by a small wooden statue of God and pray for strength. Stephen would join her, his small hands folded, asking for his mother to find happiness again. One fine day, as the early rays of the sun danced on the dusty window of their small hut, Stephen spoke up. "Mother, you work the whole day. You never have time for me," he said softly. Emily paused, wiping the sweat from her brow. She looked at her son's innocent face and sighed. "No, my child. But if I don't work, what will we eat?" she said. Stephen nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, Mother, you're right. But when I grow up, I'll find a good job. Then you won't have to work so hard anymore." Emily felt a tear slip down her cheek as she pulled her son into a hug. "Come here, my dear. I know you will make me proud," she said, kissing his forehead before returning to her work. Stephen did everything he could to help his mother. He was a kind, bright boy who loved learning. At school, he studied hard, determined to build a better future for both of them. His efforts paid off. Year after year, he came first in his class and received a scholarship that paid for his books and supplies. Even after school, Stephen would go with Emily to her cleaning jobs, quietly waiting in the corner while she worked. His fascination with learning never faded. Wherever he went, Stephen carried a small book, and whenever he had a free moment, he would open it and lose himself in stories, facts, and new worlds. His knowledge grew day by day, and the light of hope shone in his eyes. One day, Emily took Stephen with her to Harry's house, a wealthy man who lived in a grand home at the edge of the village. She had been working there for years, dusting the antique furniture and scrubbing the marble floors. As they stepped inside, Emily turned to her son. "Sit here, Stephen. I'll finish my work soon," she said. "Yes, Mother," Stephen replied, sitting down in the hall. Emily disappeared into the kitchen, leaving Stephen alone. The room was filled with polished furniture and golden trinkets that sparkled in the sunlight. Stephen's eyes fell on a newspaper lying on the table. He couldn't help himself. He picked it up and began to read. A few minutes later, Harry's daughter, Sophia, walked in. She was a pretty girl with soft curls and bright eyes, but she carried an air of arrogance about her. She spotted Stephen reading her newspaper and frowned. "Hey, what are you doing here?" she asked sharply. Stephen looked up, startled. "I've come here with my mother," he said politely. "Okay, but who told you to touch that newspaper? It's mine. Do you understand?" she snapped. Stephen blinked. "I was just reading it. I haven't done anything to it," he explained. Sophia's face turned red with anger. "You're arguing with me in my own house?" she shouted. "Daddy! Daddy!" Hearing his daughter's cries, Harry came into the room. "What's the matter, my child?" he asked. Sophia pointed at Stephen. "Daddy, he's reading my newspaper in my house, and when I told him not to, he argued with me." Harry's face turned stern as he looked at Stephen. "Hey, boy, how did you get here? Who did you come with?" Stephen stood up and said softly, "I came with my mother." Just then, Emily entered the room, wiping her hands on her apron. "What's happened, sir?" she asked. "Who is this boy? And what is he doing in my house?" Harry demanded. Emily's eyes filled with concern as she replied, "Sir, he's my son. He was alone at home, so I brought him with me today." Stephen clutched her hand. "Mother, I was just reading the newspaper. I didn't do anything wrong." Emily sighed, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "My son will never read a newspaper in your house again, sir," she said quietly. She took Stephen's hand, and together they left the grand house. The cold air outside bit at their cheeks, but Emily held her head high, and Stephen followed her quietly, his heart heavy. Days passed, and Stephen continued to work hard at school. When the exam results came out, he stood first in his class once again. Sophia, despite her wealthy background, came in third. That day, Emily took Stephen with her to Harry's house once more. As they walked, Emily spoke firmly to her son. "Stephen, do not touch anything here today. I will finish my work early and we'll go home soon, okay?" "Yes, Mother," Stephen said softly. Emily left Stephen standing in a corner as she went to do her chores. Meanwhile, Sophia's friends had come over to her house. They were all dressed in fancy clothes, giggling and whispering as they crowded around a cake that Sophia's mother had bought for her. "Come, friends, let's cut the cake together," Sophia exclaimed happily. Stephen watched from his corner, his mouth watering at the sight of the cake. He had never tasted cake in his life. As the children sang and laughed, Stephen felt a pang of longing in his heart. When Emily came back, she saw Stephen standing there quietly, his eyes fixed on the cake. She wiped her hands on her apron and said, "Come, son. Let's go home. We're getting late." "Mother," Stephen said in a small voice, "I want to have that cake." Emily's heart broke. "Come, son," she said gently. "That cake is not for us." Stephen lowered his eyes. "But, Mother, they even fed the dog with the cake. They didn't give me even one piece." Emily took a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. "No, my child," she said softly. "One day, when I have enough money, I will buy a cake just for you. I promise." Stephen nodded, blinking back tears. "Really, Mother?" "Yes, my son. Come, let's go home now," she said. They walked back home in silence, the cold wind whipping around them. As they turned down the narrow lane to their small hut, a young boy came up to Emily, holding out a small booklet. "Mother, please take a lottery ticket. It's only for 1 rupee," he said hopefully. Emily hesitated. She barely had enough money for their meals, but something in the boy's earnest face moved her. "Okay, give it to me," she said, handing over a single rupee. She took the ticket and tucked it away carefully in her blouse. At home, she placed it in front of the small wooden idol of God on the shelf. Stephen stood beside her, his small hands folded in prayer. "Dear God," he whispered, "you always listen to everyone. Please listen to me today. Let this lottery win for us." The next day, Emily took Stephen with her once again to Harry's house. Stephen remembered what had happened the last time, so he stood silently in the corner, his hands folded behind his back. Sophia came into the hall, dressed in a bright red frock. She saw Stephen and frowned. "Hey, Stephen, come here. Collect my toys and keep them in place." "How long will you just stand there?" she ordered. Stephen did as he was told, quietly gathering her dolls and teddy bears and stacking them neatly. Sophia sat down on the sofa and picked up the newspaper lying nearby. As she flipped through it, she paused, her eyes widening. "Daddy! Daddy!" she called out. Harry came in, wiping his hands. "What happened, Sophia?" "Daddy, I told you yesterday to buy me a lottery ticket, but you didn't. Look, this ticket number, 11,223, has won the lottery," she said, showing him the newspaper. Harry laughed. "Okay, fine. I'll buy you one tomorrow." Sophia pouted. "Here, Daddy, look at it." She pointed at the winning number again and then went back to reading the newspaper. Stephen, standing nearby, felt his heart start to race. He remembered the lottery ticket his mother had bought. Quickly, he took it out of his pocket and looked at the number. His eyes widened in shock. 11,223. It was the exact same number printed in the newspaper. "Mother! Mother! Come here quickly!" he cried out. Emily came running in, her hands covered in soap suds. "What happened, Stephen?" "Why are you shouting?" she asked, alarmed. Stephen's voice trembled with excitement. "Mother, the lottery ticket! It has won! We have won the lottery, Mother!" Emily looked at the ticket, then at the newspaper in Sophia's hand. She felt her legs go weak as she realized it was true. Tears of relief and joy welled up in her eyes. "Stephen, is it true?" she whispered. "Yes, Mother, it's true. Now you don't have to work in anyone's house anymore," he said, his voice trembling with happiness. Emily hugged her son tightly, her heart swelling with hope and gratitude. "Let's go, my child. Let's go home," she said. Turning to Harry, she said in a calm voice, "Sir, I will come back later to collect my wages." Then, holding Stephen's hand firmly, she walked out of the grand house with her head held high. With the lottery money, Emily was finally able to build a small but comfortable house for herself and her son. She bought new clothes for Stephen, books for his school, and fresh food for their kitchen. And, true to her word, she bought him the biggest, most delicious cake she could find. Stephen's eyes shone with joy as he took a bite of the cake he had once only dreamed of. Emily watched him, her heart full of pride and happiness. From that day on, Emily no longer had to work in the houses of the rich. She spent her days caring for Stephen and watching him grow into a fine young man, his dreams as bright as the morning sun. The villagers, who once saw Emily and her son as poor and pitiful, now looked at them with respect. Emily never forgot the lessons life had taught her, that dignity is worth more than gold, and that every person, rich or poor, deserves kindness. As for Stephen, he never forgot how his mother had struggled and how a single rupee's worth of hope had changed their lives. He continued to study hard, determined to make his mother even prouder. From this story, we learn that we should never mock or belittle someone for their poverty. Everyone deserves respect, and no one knows what tomorrow might bring. Sometimes even a single act of kindness or a small hope can change everything. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe and comment below on which topic you want the next video. More stories are coming, and more English too. Thank you.